Welcome, everyone. How wonderful to be together today in one mountain, many paths, where our mission is what Dr. Marc Gafni and Barbara Marx Hubbard call a planetary awakening in love through unique self symphonies. We are activating a new humanity and awakening as a new species. Homo, amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens. As a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, a zendo, no one is excluded, everyone is included, and we come together to attune to the evolutionary impulse awakening within us. I am Kristina Tehel, the co-executive producer, along with Krista Josepha, Jacqueline Clark, and Jamie Long, and we are so delighted to be together with each and every one of you for week 279 of our live community broadcast. What a privilege it is to be part of a global community where we contribute to humanity's flourishing. Use the Zoom and Facebook chat functions to say hello, to let us know where you're from, to resonate the Dharma, and to express your prayers. On Zoom, check that your chat settings say everyone so that we can all hear from you. Sign up and read our weekly emails. There you find our replays, our community activities, our volunteer opportunities, and our community celebrations. Care to step into the work and practice of creating the great library? Reach out to me for the holy opportunity. My email is in the chat box now. What to expect today? First, a Dharma recap from myself. Then Dr. Marc Gafni will set our intention. Then David resonates our evolutionary love code. Then we will step into our evolutionary sermons with Dr. Gafni and sometimes from Barbara Marx Hubbard. And then we move into meditation to enter prayer. To close, Krista invites us deeper into community. And then today we have a surprise. We won't bring everyone on at the end because at the top of the hour, and absolutely at the top of the hour at 2 p.m. Eastern time, immediately after the One Mountain Many Paths broadcast, we invite you to join us for an exciting 90-minute dialogue with Dr. Gafni at the book club Parallax about a return to Eros, the radical experience of being fully alive. The book is available on our website and on Audible, read by Gabriel Anwar. Again, the talk starts right at the top of the hour at 2 o'clock Eastern time, and the registration link will be in the chat box for entering the talk when Krista comes on. Marc writes evolutionary love codes. Marc and Barbara studied the codes together, often comparing them to Barbara's own 52 codes for conscious self-evolution. These codes crystallize the new story of humanity. Quote, evolving the course of consciousness and culture, which is the source code of love, unquote. We have the privilege to be part of the emergence of these first principles and first values. The Dharma gates are open. Every week we are blessed. I welcome all who are new. We need you. Know that every week is a standalone and every week builds on the week before. One Mountain, Many Paths is radically committed to telling the new universe story. Now for my recap from last week. The evolutionary technology of chant. Portal to the new story of value. Where does the new story come from? How do we know anything? Where do we know anything? How do we actually access the field of value and listen deeply into that field? Yes, we study, we integrate, we engage visionary imagination. But we get to first principles and first values because we enter the field that lives in us. A crucial path towards true knowledge is the path of chant. The path of chant is a key that opens the gates to the interior face of the cosmos. Music is the mathematics of intimacy. Great traditions of knowing, from the mysteries in ancient Greece to the tribal traditions, to the warrior traditions, to the speculative and subtle schools of science and tantra, all of them deployed the core technology of music and chant. All true music opens up new value. We are not just passively listening. No, we're talking about the actual practice of becoming the music. Chanting is about an open heart, yearning for She, being madly in love and yearning for value. But to do that, we can't do it in our skin encapsulated ego. No, we need to open the eye of value to access the field and to let the field pour into us as we pour into the field. That's the practice of the avatar through the generations. We want to find our way to the inside of the inside, to the interior face of the cosmos, because value lives on the inside. Value is an interior, and we can't rely on one avatar. We have to be that avatar together. We are the movement of evolutionary energy. We have to always be able to access the interior face of the cosmos and let it move in us and activate us. When it activates us, it doesn't just give us this intense feeling of aliveness. It actually gives us access to value, to the good, to the true, to the beautiful. It gives us access to Eros itself. No, we can't just have Dharma. In order to create the new story of value, we also need practice, and practice means we can access the field of She. Through the practice of chanting, you become the connection point in the pole, connecting the inner and the outer worlds, heaven and earth, interiors and exteriors. Let's confess who we are. We are participants in the field. She lives in us and we live in her. We call that anthro-ontology. Anthro within me, ontology, the realness of value lives. The mysteries are within us. We've got to open the gate. Let's go all the way in this lifetime. Let's stand for the evolution of love. Let's dream the dream that's impossible, and let's make it real. Now I invite us to more deeply enter the holy and sacred space of one mountain, many paths, and I turn my word to you, Dr. Marc Gafni.
Just gorgeous recapitulation and gorgeous moment in the symphony. And of course, what we're all really curious about. Now, if you're new this week, so welcome to any and all new people, mad, deep, wonderful welcome. If you're new, you're not curious about it, but if you've been with us for even a few weeks before, or for a few years, we all want to know where the background is that Kristina is sitting, because that's not her usual background. So we want to know where those swans are from. Where is she? We know she's traveling in the United States, I think on her way to Miami, and we can't wait to see you and wishing you a fantastic and gorgeous trip. And we're on the journey with you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Setting our intention. We're here in this place together, in this community of pioneering souls. At this moment, poised between dystopia and utopia. Two paths. Dystopia lurks through multiple forms of catastrophic and existential risk of a kind that never existed in the history of planet Earth that began in 1945, but have exponentialized since then. And we've spent a significant amount of time unpacking existential risk. And I want to call that, as we have many times before, the meta crisis, right? It's not one crisis, but it's a series of crises in different domains, which are the meta crisis. And the responses to the meta crisis to date have been rooted in infrastructure suggestions or new social structures, right? Meaning new sets of laws, right? New sets of government structures themselves. Infrastructure meaning more connected to the actual infrastructures of reality, supply chains, the linear materials economy, etc. And those are important. But what we understand here, and what every great mind and heart has understood that's actually lost in the dialogue today, and essential, because it's actually the only thing that can actually, from the perspective of the human being, change the vector of history. What's critical, fundamental, which orients everything, is not actually infrastructure, and it's not social structure. It's what Manfred Harris called superstructure. And superstructure means the story. It means the worldview, right? That everything emerges from. And what we're actually unpacking here in One Mountain, Many Paths is that story is not, as postmodernity suggested, expressed in many of its parrot figures in culture. For example, like my colleague Yuval Harari, right, who's a lovely human being, I'm sure, and a wonderful raconteur and historical storyteller, but who's also a kind of unconscious parrot of the weakest positions in postmodernity, right? When he talks about all story is made up, all story is fiction, all story is a figment of our imagination, all story is a social construction of reality, and I'm quoting directly. And there's no ultimate difference between, let's say, Libya's Gaddafi, right, and universal human rights. They're both made up stories. But that's actually a tragic misunderstanding of the correct intuitions of postmodernity, one that is rampant. It's not by accident that a book like Yuval's becomes favorite reading of Barack Obama and of Jeff Bezos and, a host of other figures who are in no sense shocked. And that's what you have to understand. That's what's new in the last 20 years. Are in no sense shocked by a position that says the story is completely made up. It's a total social construction. There are no actually intrinsic values in cosmos. Right? That's a disaster. And there's many reasons why that's happened. I'm not going to enter into that now. We've talked about it in depth, but one of them is that value has been hijacked by particular communities. Values come to represent regressive values, right? Pre-modern values, right? And the notion that there could be intrinsic value, what we call here in One Mountain, Many Paths, first values and first principles in cosmos, is a notion that's gotten lost. And we're here to actually reclaim first values and first principles, not as fixed, preordained, but as the orienting simple rules that generate complexity. That's how complexity theory works. There's an orienting set of simple rules, which are the values in a mathematics equation, exterior sciences, but they're also the values in the interior sciences. And so we're here to actually articulate what are the evolving first principles and first values of cosmos. That's unbelievably important, right? They're evolving first principles and first values, right? They evolve to infinity. It's just like Gödel and Tarski in their incompleteness theorem, right, essentially pointed out that there's not one mathematical set, right, that actually completes everything. And just like in physics, there was a thought for a moment, there's one set of physics equations. Now we've worked everything out. And then quantum physics exploded that. And Gödel and Tarski exploded it in mathematics and the values of mathematics equations, right? And the values of interior sciences, there's evolution. We're evolving towards infinity, but there's a vector of evolution, right? There are first principles and first values of love, eros, intimacy, personhood, uniqueness, choice. And we need to actually unpack each of those first principles and first values. We've got to actually enact a new shared grammar of value, right? A new story of value. It's not enough to have first principles and first values. You need a plot line. We are storytelling creatures, right? Story itself is a first principle and first value of cosmos. So what we're here to do is revolution. Revolution for the sake of the evolution of love. Revolution for the sake of the unborn, the trillions of unborn lives that will not manifest, the unborn loves, the unborn creativity, the unborn goodness, the unborn truth, the unborn beauty, all of it actually looks to us. Looks to us because, not because we're engaged in grandiosity, not at all. We're trembling before she. We're trembling with joy at the privilege and trembling with joy at the responsibility and trembling with joy at the possibility of possibility, right? Meaning we have to enact a new story in this moment of time because only a new story can change the vector of history. We all live in an inescapable framework. So our framework is the story we live in. Right now, reality lives in a win-lose metrics. So that story generates existential risk. We need to change that story. And when we change that story, when we tell a new story, not a made-up story, but a new story of value, rooted in first principles and first values, then it all changes. So the most important, exciting, evolutionary, revolutionary act that we can do to alleviate suffering, to be lovers, like Rumi, the great poet of Sufism, we have to be mad lovers. It's the only sanity. And to be mad lovers is to see around the corner, not to be so obsessed in the details of the contractions of my life and my health and my markers. Actually, let me see bigger. Let me take complete care of myself in every possible way, right? Let me completely attend to those in my circle of intimacy and influence, and then let me expand my circle. So that's what we're here for. We're here, as Da Vinci was with his cohort in the Renaissance, to play a larger game, to participate in the evolution of love, which is to tell the new story of value rooted in first principles and first values. Right? What an exciting beginning. What a wondrous time to be together. And what I'd like to do today is begin, with your permission, with a couple of chants, right? Chant as practice. Chant is a technology of practice, which opens not just the eye of the senses, which is sensory, not just the eye of the mind, but it opens what I call the eye of value, what the Sufis called the eye of the heart, the mystical Christians called the eye of the spirit. But let's call it the eye of value. It's the ability to experience value, right? It's a psychedelic trip, if you will, but without psychedelics. You're actually accessing, through the technology of chant, the mathematics of intimacy that are the interior face of cosmos. And that's why every great tradition has always had its chant, right? Its music, right? Its song, which is the key master, which takes us into the inside so that we can articulate not just exterior sciences, which are runaway and dissociated from interiors, but we can articulate in parallel with exterior sciences, right, a deep set of new interior sciences. That's what we're here to do today. The code is simple. David's going to resonate the code for us. Then we're going to do 2 chants. Then we're going to dive in. Okay, so we're already here. We're already in the middle. It's madly wonderful to be with you. I'm just personally insanely privileged to be here with you. I'm so excited and so trembling, right, and so delighted and so filled with possibility and filled with also sometimes foreboding. It matters. There's ecstatic urgency to what we do. And let's do it with the greatest of joy and the greatest of audacity. So David, give us the code, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marc. I'm trembling with joy at this possibility to expand and to be something bigger. And I always have, as you know, ever since I met you some 10 years ago, you've called me to something bigger, right? And also honored the dignity of my uniqueness. It's so beautiful. So friends, here we are wondering, what's this all about? We're all curious, right? There's so much to say and so much to ask. And so this code boils it all down for us. What is this all about? So it's very short. So I'll say it twice. I'll resonate it twice. This week's evolutionary love code. The question is the meta crisis. The answer is unique self and unique self symphony. The question is the meta crisis. The answer is unique self and unique self symphony. It's my pleasure to turn the word back to you, Dr. Marc.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Gorgeous, right? Gorgeous, right? David's gorgeous. And the code is simple, right? The code is simple and straight. The question is the meta crisis. The answer is unique self and unique self symphony. That's what we're going to talk about today. But first, let's practice. And practice is, right, we open up a new eye, right? The eye of value, which was the essential eye for all the most subtle and speculative minds, pre-modern, modern, and postmodern. So let's go for a second to India, to Kashmir Shaivism, right, the depths of Hinduism. And we turn to Shir, right, to the Eros, to Devi, the Eros that animates cosmos, right? The Eros, which is the Eros of value itself. And I'm going to ask just gently, gently, tenderly, right? As the chant comes on, don't use it for a moment to text someone, to get something done, to be productive. Let's step in together. So take us inside. And let's just hold that. Let's hold it gently. And let it breathe you. And you breathe it. And let's bring the East together with the interior sciences of the West. And we'll do just one more chant. Mismor Shir. Right? Mismor Shir. And we'll just kind of feel it. And Mismor Shir is we sing not to the goddess who is the force of cosmos, but in Mismor Shir, we sing to the face of She, the face of Eros, which is infinitely personal and intimate, that knows my name, that dances in the holy and broken hallelujahs of my life. So there's the She, the goddess that suffuses the East, the Shakti Eros, that aggregates reality, the evolutionary impulse. And then there's her appearance in the West, She, in which she's Shakti, but also infinitely and intimately personal. Mismor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. It's good to be together in the depth of Sabbath. Tov L'Hodot L'Adonai U'Lezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. It's good to love each other, to speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the nights. So it goes like this. I'm just going to chant it for you with your permission. Mismor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. It's good to sing with thee, with we, and wherever you are, right? Welcome, join. Mismor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. It's good to sing with thee, with we. Le'agid baboker chazdecha ve'emunatcha baleilot. Le'agid baboker chazdecha ve'emunatcha baleilot. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. Welcome, O Mismor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. So good to be with thee, with we. Mismor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Let's open all the gates. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, le'agid b'boker chazdecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot. Le'agid b'boker chazdecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. to speak of your love in the morning, hey, and to trust you through the night, to speak of your love in the morning, hey, and to trust you through the night. So welcome again, everyone. And it's absolutely essential in this podcast, in this One Mountain, Many Paths, that we don't just access the eye of the mind, right? Reason, conversation, right? My colleague Sam Harris, right, does a podcast which is pure mind, reason. But reason gets lost. Reason confuses. You actually have to access first the silence. And the silence not as a materialist construct of cosmos that gives you a certain experience, but actually to understand that the silence speaks, and the song speaks, and the chant speaks, and it opens up the eye of value, and value is, my dear friend Sam, intrinsic, innate. It's evolving, right? It's not preordained. But value is an innate structure of cosmos. Cosmos generates value that's intrinsic. And one of the values of cosmos is personhood. Personhood. That actually, the cosmos is both third person, the flow of the four forces, all animated by Eros. And cosmos is first person. I can actually feel, right, in my first person, a sense of my own consciousness. That's what consciousness means, is it's the feeling of me, which is not reducible to mechanical structures. But cosmos is also second person, which is the infinity of personhood, right? The infinity of intimacy. It's my I-ness yearning to know your you-ness. It's I and thou, right? It's the knowing that if my inner heart and all of its unique beauty doesn't speak to your inner heart and all of its unique beauty, life is drab and empty and ultimately meaningless. So that knowing of personhood is itself a first value and a first principle of cosmos. And that personhood lives not only between I and thee, you and me, right? Between he and she, between the I and the we, between different we's, but that personhood is a quality of cosmos itself. Cosmos is both impersonal in the sense that it's beyond personalities, right? It's the supernovas in all of their cascading immense gorgeousness. And cosmos, the process is personal, but it's the personal beyond the impersonal. It's the personal that invests and animates the impersonal. It's not just intimacy as a human construction. It's the intrinsic value of intimacy located in the intimate universe, sourced in the infinity of intimacy. And that's the chant. To speak of your love in the morning and to trust you through the night, right? We turn to the infinity of intimacy that knows our name, and we dance and we hold hands and we impress our lips on infinity, and we feel the press of infinity's lips on our bodies, hearts, and minds. To speak of your love in the morning and to trust you through the night. Now, today in our code, we're going to be unpacking exactly this notion. And we're about to launch, Claire Molinaire is directing, brilliantly and initiating together with myself and the board of the center, a Unique Self Institute, to give the unique self teaching that's so central to Cosmo-erotic humanism, to the new story, to give it its rightful place and to bring it into the world, right? To download it into the source code of culture. And many people have been asking us in the last years, we've all encountered the question in different ways, right? Is there a kind of elevator pitch, if you will, on Unique Self? Now, as y'all might know, I think it's someplace here, there's more than an elevator pitch, right? There's a book right on Unique Self. So I just completely welcome everyone to pick that up if you're up for it. You know, if you want a short version, right? There's a shorter version called Self, which is a shorter version. So those are the non-elevator. Those are kind of the deep dive versions. And I just invite everyone, if you can, and maybe it'll find its way in the chat box. I invite everyone to really, really spend the time, you know, with these two Unique Self books. They actually make a difference, right? But that's not today. Today, let's see if we can, without losing its depth, without losing its beauty, without losing its accuracy, right? Can we kind of, and there's been so many people asking this question in the last 2 years that I wanted to, you know, with permission from everyone, dedicate, you know, today's One Mountain to trying to kind of clearly state, right, the essence of Unique Self, you know, just in a few minutes. And I'm going to try and do it 2 or 3 times, right? So we're going to do kind of take 1 and take 2 and take 3 till we kind of get this deep sense of what is this notion of Unique Self, right, that actually lies at the very center of cosmos itself. Okay. So we're going to try, and you got to help me here, okay? Because I've never tried to do this before, to try and kind of, you know, encapsulate it this way. So are we ready to go? Here we go. So do we have a drum roll? Do we have a drum roll around the world? Can we have a drum roll? Okay, drum roll. Drum roll. And I have to say, just I can share with you, just to be a little vulnerable, I'm a little nervous about trying to encapsulate it. I don't generally believe in short encapsulations, but there's such a demand for it. I want to really try and see if we can do it without losing the integrity and the depth. Okay, so here we go. So the question is the meta crisis, and the answer is Unique Self and Unique Self Symphony. What's the meta crisis? Simple image. Let's take the Death Star, right? In that cinematic classic of the late 20th, early 21st century Star Wars. The Death Star is a battleship armed with existential risk. It has the ability to not just attack, but to destroy a planet. That's existential risk. The forces of good don't have the capacity to engage the Death Star. And the Death Star is culture. It's a culture of death that leads to existential risk. There's a realization in the cinematic version, which is not about what the writers were thinking. It's culture speaking through this epic story. There's this realization that the only way to take out the Death Star is with a direct hit that gets through all of the defenses and actually explodes culture into a new possibility. That's the direct hit. Now, when we talk about the Death Star, we're talking about what we call the second shock of existence, right? The first shock of existence is the death of the human being, the realization that the human being will die, which dawns at the beginning of history. And that realization of the death of the human being, and although death is a portal between 2 days, death is also a stark end, right? Our experience is death ends this life, and all the stories and all the plot lines and all the threads of living, right, end at that particular moment. What happens beyond is a different conversation. There's a continuity of consciousness, but we have an actual experience of ending. And that ending and the experience of the finality of mortality actually is what presses us into life. That's the first shock of existence, the realization of the death of the human being. But there's a second shock of existence, meaning after we go through all the stages of matter and life and mind, all the stages of human history, we've come to this place in which the gap between our exterior technologies and their exponential forms and the paucity and dearth and collapse of our interior technologies of value have created extraction models and exponential growth curves and tragedies of the commons and multipolar traps in which everyone has to keep producing to the nth degree, even weaponized exponential threats to our very existence because we're afraid that the other person's going to do it and not be transparent and hide it from us, right? So all of these structures, right, have created this essential collapse of systems that are literally on the brink, right, of manifesting themselves. And that's the second shock of existence. So the second shock of existence is not the death of the human being. The second shock of existence is the potential death of humanity. What's the Death Star move? How do we respond to that Death Star imminent existential risk? And the answer is we need a direct hit. And that direct hit is unique self. What is unique self? Unique self is not a declaration. It's not a claim. It is the best realization about the nature of the human being, the answer to the greatest question we can ever ask. Who are you? Who are you? And what's there to do? And where are you? Right? That's the great question, right? It's a who question. Who are you? And then there's who are we? But that question, those are the narratives of identity, are rooted in a larger question, which is where are we? Right? What's our universe story? And then what's there to do? Right? What's there to do with our power? What's there to do with our desire? And all of those questions are answered by unique self. And again, unique self is not a fanciful conjecture. Unique self is the result of decades of work that we've done integrating in a form of second simplicity, meaning not simple, complex, second simplicity, integrating in the form of second simplicity, the best leading edge insights and understanding, validated understandings of the exterior and interior sciences and the entire pre-modern, modern, and postmodern period woven together in a new universe story, a new understanding of identity that we're calling unique self. Unique self and then unique self symphony. And that is the direct hit. That is what actually takes down the culture of death. That is to say, both, as we'll see, the second shock of existence, existential risk, and even responds to the first shock of existence at our own individual death. So what do we mean by unique self? Unique self answers the question of who are you? Unique self symphony answers the question of who are we? So let's see if we can state it clearly. Who are you? You are an irreducibly unique expression, meaning this is not your separate self. You're an irreducibly unique expression of the larger field. You're an irreducibly unique expression of the larger field of the love intelligence, love beauty, and love desire. That is the initiating and animating eros of all that is. So I want to get that sentence with you again. Who are you? You're a unique self. Your unique self is the irreducibly unique expression of the love intelligence, love beauty, and love eros. That is the initiating and animating eros and energy of all that is. That lives uniquely in you, as you, and through you. That never was, is, or will be in anyone, past, present, and future. And as a unique self, you have an irreducibly unique perspective. You incarnate an irreducibly unique quality of intimacy. You're a unique configuration of desire. You're a unique expression of power. And all of those come together to form your unique gift. And your unique gift is both your unique quality of being in the world, interacting, interfacing, interactivating with reality, right? You're interbeing with reality. And your unique gift is the unique gift that you have to give. The unique gift is that which answers a unique need that can be addressed by you and you alone in your unique circle of intimacy and influence. And when you are addressing that unique need in your unique circle of intimacy and influence, you're actually responding to reality. That's your unique responsibility. That's your unique obligation, but obligation and love in the original Semitic languages are the same word. It's the unique expression of your love intelligence that can be done by no one that ever was, is, or will be other than you. And when you're committing your unique, outrageous act of love, which is your deepest heart's desire, which emerges from your unique configuration of desire, you're giving your unique gift. That's what it means to play your unique instrument in the Unique Self Symphony. And the Unique Self Symphony is not a top-down command and control structure. Rather, the Unique Self Symphony is the emergent of intimacy, of evolutionary intimacy, which is the natural product of the self-organizing universe, the self-actualizing cosmos. The universe self-organizes to greater and greater levels of intimacy because evolution is the progressive deepening of intimacies. And whenever there's a crisis, we're facing a meta crisis, the crisis is always a crisis of intimacy. The crisis of intimacy, right? The crisis of intimacy is responded to by a new configuration of intimacy. And the new configuration of intimacy in this generation, at this moment of meta crisis, is Unique Self Symphony. Unique Self Symphony is not top down. It's not command and control. It rather is the human being self-organizing to their highest self, to their deepest self, to their most wondrous and beautiful self, which is their unique self. In other words, uniqueness is like the pheromones in an ant colony, which self-organize the ant colony, like the exchange of intelligence between bees. And we know that beehives scientifically are wildly organized, allured, and uniquely emergent in wonderful expressions of intelligence. So how does that work on the human level? Ants, bees are not human beings. Human beings are, right, on the evolutionary chain, conscious expressions of evolution. And what drives us? What guides us? What's our North Star? What's our compass of joy? So our compass of joy is our unique self. It's the unique set of allurements that call me forward to give my unique gift. It's the unique configuration of desire, but not surface desire, not pseudo desire, not lowest common denominator desire, manipulated by the internet, right? Whose goals are bottom lines of profit and control, but actually my deepest heart's desire, my clarified desire, which gives my unique gift, which allows me to play my instrument in the Unique Self Symphony. And sometimes we play together. Sometimes 10 of us or 20 of us or 30 or a whole division or a whole people are playing different strands on the same unique self instrument. And that unique self instrument gives a unique gift, right, into society. So I, human being, who am I? I'm a unique self. And I have an instrument to play in the Unique Self Symphony. And I am needed by all that is. That's the realization of unique self. The realization of unique self is to speak of your love in the morning and to trust you through the nights, right? Unique self implies personhood. And personhood means there's a personal relationship. Reality intended me. Wow. That's what uniqueness tells me. Uniqueness tells me, oh, I'm unique. I'm not generic. I'm irreducibly unique. Reality intended me. Reality chose me. Reality recognizes me. Reality love adores me. Reality desires me. Reality needs me. And reality needs my own growth, my own transformation. Because it's only my transformation from a separate self to a true self. True self means I'm part of the field. To a unique self, a unique expression of the field. To an evolutionary unique self, right? A unique self in an evolutionary context who feels the evolutionary impulse pulsing in him, pulsing in her, knowing that that evolutionary impulse has a personal face, and that personal face is my unique self. And that's why I joined the Unique Self Symphony. Unique Self Symphony is made up of evolutionary unique selves, right? Acting as unique expressions of the love intelligence all over the world. And that's a new vision. That's what I was delighted to call with my dear friend, Barbara Marks Hubbard, and Zachary Stein, right? A planetary awakening in love through Unique Self Symphonies. Wow. Wow. So let's hold that for a second. Let's hold that for a second. Can we feel that? And that's Unique Self. The meta crisis, the Death Star. The response to the meta crisis is actually Unique Self and Unique Self Symphony. And it responds in two ways. It responds to the second shock of existence by actually activating all of reality as unique selves and unique self symphonies. It's a bottom-up, self-organizing, self-actualizing expression of cosmos that's activating to a new structure of intimacy. It's not a corporation imposing. It's not a government imposing. And we need governments and we need corporations to have important roles. But at the very core, we need a new cultural enlightenment. We need a new emergent order. Only in a closed society, think China and the Communist Party of China, in a closed society can you have a top-down imposition. An open society needs to have an emergent order, a cultural enlightenment, which self-organizes based on simple first principles, right, towards a complex and beautiful society, which is the most beautiful world we know possible, the highest, most stunning emergent of the good, the true, the beautiful, of intimacy, of love, of eros. And so it's only Unique Self and Unique Self Symphony, which are the simple first rules. Again, that's what we've learned from complexity and chaos theory. Simple first rules generate, right, a complex and coherent system. But Unique Self responds also to the first shock of existence. Because when you understand that you're a unique self and you feel into your unique story, you can actually access in the depth of yourself the knowing that as you approach your death, it's not over. You actually know that you're in midlife. You know that there's all these threads that are still dangling. And you know you can feel in the depth of yourself, the depth of your interior experience, what we call anthro-ontology. Anthro, human, ontology, for real. That is, the mysteries are within us. We can access in our own interior experience something real, but the very nature of reality. So I actually access and realize in my own interior, I'm in mid-play. I remember when I was in our dear friend Barbara Marx Hubbard's hospital room. I had just spoken to her, that morning. The last words she said when we spoke to each other right before we were beginning in one mountain, and she lost consciousness, and I flew immediately to Colorado. And I was there at her hospital bed, and she passed away. She never recovered consciousness. But it was so clear, anthro-ontologically, that Barbara's unique self hadn't disappeared. And of course, there's an enormous amount of very careful philosophy to support this. There's an enormous amount of empirical evidence today to support the continuity of consciousness. But even deeper, there's the anthro-ontological knowing that the realization that I'm irreducibly unique. And when I get to the end of my life, I know that my story's not done. So it's unique self that actually tells me that we're ultimately going to also transcend the first shock of existence, that the story is not over, that it's continuing and in its next chapter and in its next unfolding. In everything we do in this world actually is the field of value which writes the script of the next part of our personal passion drama, which participates in the great passion drama of reality. Because here's what we understand, friends. Unique self is the principle of personhood. It's the innate and irreducible value of the personal. And the personal is always a story, right? And our story participates in the larger story of cosmos. And we perhaps say it like this, and we'll conclude with this, and we'll chant together again. What we actually understand about reality, based on the interior and exterior sciences, is that reality is not merely a fact. Reality is a story. And reality is not an ordinary story. Reality is a love story. It's not a Pollyannish love story. It's the eros of cosmos. It's the eros that desires the progressive deepening of intimacies. Reality is not an ordinary love story. It's a love story. It's an outrageous love story. It's an evolutionary love story. It's the eros of cosmos. And we know that your story and my story and our story together, your story is chapter and verse in the larger text of the universe, a love story. Your evolution, right, is chapter and verse in evolution, the love story of the universe. Your amor is chapter and verse in the amorous cosmos. Your intimacy is chapter and verse in the intimate universe. Your story matters. It's not a story you move beyond. You move beyond your grasping, egoic surface story. Then you find the deeper outline, the plot line of your sacred autobiography. And you find that the plot line of your personal story, your sacred autobiography, is precisely identical with the plot lines of cosmos itself. In cosmos, a story, and stories have plot lines, and the plot lines of cosmos are simple. The movement from simplicity to complexity, that's the first plot line. The movement from simplicity to complexity. The second plot line, the movement towards more and more interconnectivity. The third plot line is the realization that the interior of interconnectivity is intimacy, and actually reality is moving towards deeper and wider configurations of intimacy. The fourth plot line, reality is moving towards ever more creativity. The fifth plot line, reality itself is moving towards ever more eros. But finally, the sixth plot line, which is the mechanism, the engine, the animating telerotic, telos and eros, the animating telerotic vector for everything, is reality is moving towards more and more uniqueness. Because more and more complexity means more and more uniqueness. More and more interconnectivity, the node of interface is always the unique node in a system. More and more intimacy is, right, ultimately we go from matter to life to mind, in which ultimately my unique self meets your unique self, and we look in each other's eyes and we see all of reality and we see irreducible uniqueness. Right? More and more creativity emerges from the matrix of my unique self. More and more love, because love is a unique self-perception. I look at you and I'm blown away by your infinite beauty. So the movement towards unique self is the vector of cosmos itself. All of cosmos moves towards the realization of unique self and unique self symphony. Wow. Wow. So we're going to invite you. I'm going to turn to, let's breathe for a second. I'm going to turn to Kristina, who will invite us to the next step. And if you have to conclude now, it was madly gorgeous being with you. We're going to now go to Parallax. We're going to go to Europe, and we're going to do a special dialogue with the Parallax Book Club with my colleague Andrew Sweeney and Alexander Bard and a whole cast of characters. This conversation of fantastic human beings. This conversation is going to be with Andrew Sweeney, where we're going to try and unpack in Europe some of these core meta principles of cosmoerotic humanism. But let's just take, I know we got to get there in a couple of minutes, but we can't end without a chant. Let's just take a 1 second to chant, okay? Amor, 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 amor. Amor, 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 amor. The amorous cosmos, right, sings through us. Amor, 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 amor. Amor, 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 amor. Amor, amor, amor. Deepest bow, everyone. Let's love this open. Kristina, take us the next step.
Yes, thank you, beloved Dr. Marc Gafni, for that beautiful transmission, going deeply into this core first principle of evolutionary unique self. And I can feel the beauty and the importance of diving into that today and feeling this self-organizing universe and trusting that whatever is emerging in the space is also what is needed. But I just want to also honor that we announced the topic of boundary breaking, sacred boundary breaking today. So for those of you who expected that, we will, I'm sure at some point.
Well, here's the sentence. One sentence. When you do sacred boundary breaking, it means you break the boundary of your separate self and you become true self and you become unique self. That's the sentence, right? When you don't do sacred boundary breaking, then the only boundary you have left to break is artificial boundaries. You break boundaries that shouldn't be broken. So we all need to do boundary breaking. We have to break the real boundary, which is the boundary of our mortality, in which we realize we're unique expressions of the divine. That's the ultimate boundary. And you're completely right, Krista. That was the tie-in, which I didn't get to do. So thank you so much for your integrity and wonder in catching that. Thank you.
No, thank you. I knew there was a link, but thank you for articulating that so beautifully. I also want to share that my allurement, my unique risk was also to travel to USA and to meet some of these beautiful people in our Unique Self Symphony. And the risk was also that I would get COVID, of course, and which I did. So I just wanted to share that intimately with all of you. And that's also the reason why I'm a little bit more gentle today in my invitation for all of us to participate in what Marc just called this planetary awakening in love through unique self symphonies. And all of our unique gifts are needed in this revolution. So just go to our website. You can find everything there. Right now, let's go to Prayer Relax, the spiritual book club, where Dr. Marc Gafni will be speaking about a return to Eros. So thank you all for being here. And I can't wait to see you on the other Zoom link where we'll have another deep dive with Dr. Marc Gafni. Thank you all so much. And we will see each other again next week.